The Wendigo by Ellen Schwartz. A wealthy man wanted to go hunting in a part of northern Canada where few had ever hunted before. He went to a trading post there to look for a guide, but no one wanted to go with him. "It's too dangerous," they said. Finally, he found an Indian who needed money badly and agreed to be his guide. The Indian's name was Defago. They camped out near a large frozen lake, and for 3 days they hunted, but without any luck. On the third night, a windstorm came up. They lay listening to the wind howl and the trees snap back and forth. To get a better look at the storm, the hunter raised the tent flap to look out. What he saw startled him. There was not a breath of air stirring, and the trees were standing perfectly still. Yet he could hear the wind howling. And as he listened, it seemed to be calling Defago's name. "Defago!" it called. "Defago!" "I must be losing my mind," thought the hunter. But Defago had gotten out of his sleeping bag. He was huddled in the corner of the tent, with his head buried in his arms. "What's going on?" asked the hunter. "It's nothing," said Defago. But the wind continued to call his name, and Defago became more tense and more restless. "Defago!" it called. "Defago!" Suddenly, Defago jumped up and ran towards the tent flap. The hunter grabbed him and wrestled him to the ground. "You can't leave me out here!" he shouted. But the wind called Defago's name again. "Defago!" And he broke loose and ran out into the darkness. As he ran, the hunter could hear him screaming. Again and again he cried, "Oh, my fiery feet, my burning feet of fire!" And then his cries faded away and the wind died down. At daybreak, the hunter followed the Indian's tracks. They went through the woods, down towards the lake, and out onto the ice. As he went along, the hunter noticed something strange. Defago's steps grew longer and longer as he went along, until they were so long that no human could have taken them. It was as if something had helped Defago to hurry away. The hunter followed Defago's tracks out into the middle of the ice, but there they disappeared. He thought that Defago must have fallen through the ice, but there was no hole. Then he thought maybe something had pulled Diego from the ice and up into the sky, but that didn't make any sense. Suddenly, the wind picked up again and began to howl the way it had the night before. Then the hunter heard Defago's voice. It was coming from above him. He heard Defago scream, "Oh, my feet, my fiery, burning feet!" But he couldn't see anything. At this point, the hunter was ready to get out of there. He ran back across the ice to his campsite, packed everything up, left some food for Defago, and headed out. A few weeks later, he reached civilization again. The following year, the hunter returned to the same area to go hunting. He went back to the same trading post to find a guide. The people there could not explain what had happened to Defago that night. None of them had seen him since. One of them said, "Maybe it was the Wendigo," and laughed. "It's supposed to come with the wind. It drags you along at high speeds until your feet are burned away, and more of you than that. And then it pulls you up into the air and drops you. It's just a crazy story, but a lot of the Indians tell it." A few days later, the hunter returned to the trading post. An Indian came in and sat down by the fire. He was all wrapped up in a big blanket, and he was wearing his hat so that you couldn't see his face. There was something familiar about him. The hunter walked over to him by the fire. "Are you Defago?" he asked. The Indian didn't answer. "Do you know anything about him?" No answer. At this, the hunter began to be worried. Perhaps the man needed help, but he couldn't see his face. "Are you all right?" he asked. No answer. The hunter lifted the Indian's hat to see how he was doing. "Ah!" he screamed. There was nothing under the hat but a pile of ashes.